Beware the trap of the double agent. Find out what's going on as I hereby summon all my imps to join me on my adventures through Marvel Snap. Hey everybody, it's Annabelle. So we got a brand new card this week, and that card happens to be Valentina. Valentina comes from a family of Russian sleeper agents. Her parents served in a secret organization that few knew about. Little of her original identity can be found, and no one knows if any of her past life is the truth. After her parents were killed, she was approached by S.H.I.E.L.D, who had knowledge of her parents' abilities. She quickly joined up, seeking this opportunity. She took on the identity of a European jet-setter with connections and cash to boot. A true double agent was born that day. Valentina became a seductive and elegant woman and spy. She served as a high-ranking agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and had a complex relationship with the director, Nick Fury. A profound intimacy bloomed between her and Fury, kindling a romance between the two. Across the years, she has had no problems using her looks and deceit to get anything she wants or needs. In fact, she is unsure of what her true identity is, as she has spent her entire life being an undercover double agent. Valentina simultaneously worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra as an undercover double agent for both. This arrangement made her a prime operative for gathering intel from both organizations. After years of lies, her true allegiances emerged. Unable to suppress her love for Nick Fury, she declared to him that she was a very loyal double agent, just not for him or Hydra. Sadly, this was seen as a betrayal, and he could only say that he'd give her a week's head start before bringing her down. Valentina is a very influential and manipulative figure with a friendly and sarcastic facade. Her knowledge of how to use the United States government operations enable her to convince others to work for her. Additionally, she is able to switch the narrative of stories to frame them to her liking. She covets strange materials such as vibranium, and she dreams of the United States being the only country with vibranium. Valentina has no superpowers, but if getting what you want is a superpower, then she embodies that. She is also superb in hand-to-hand combat, is a brilliant marksman, an espionage officer, an excellent leader, and a killer strategist. She has a deep familiarity with a variety of exotic weaponry used by both S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra. She is an expert technician, and she is very skilled at forming teams and manipulating people. Valentina, with her dedication to both S.H.I.E.L.D. and later Hydra, knows how to get some of the biggest hitters in all of Marvel to join her team, even if it's at a cost to those same team members. This is represented in Marvel Snap by her getting a high-cost card to join her team when she shows up, but a cost to that new team member. So in Marvel Snap, she is a 2-cost 3 power with the description of on reveal. Add a random 6-cost card to your hand, give it -2 cost and -3 power. In my honest opinion, I think she's a 2-star on the 5-star rating, and I think I'm almost being generous on that 2-star, believe it or not. Let me go over some of the things that I've been noticing with this card so far. first card that we gotta bring up every single conversation when you look at Valentina is got to be Cable. Cable is also a 2, is also a 3, 2 power, 3 cost. Also puts a card into your hand, actually takes it out of your opponent's deck, which could be considered as a plus, could be considered as a minus. But Cable is absolutely positively free. The other card that comes close to this is Vision. That does basically the same thing, except it gives the card plus 2 power. Now, there are some cards that are interesting to look into it. The first one that you have to look at every time you look at Valentina is Quinjet. Because the card doesn't start in your hand, if you get Quinjet on 1, Valentina on 2, that means that you can play the card on 3. The problem with this is if you don't get Quinjet on 1, and you don't get Valentina on 2, then the soonest that you can play any of the cards is 4, and that's if you get Valentina on 2 or 3. If you don't get Valentina on 3, you're really not getting that much of a power boost out of her because you're really only taking off 1 cost of her. Even if you draw her on 4 and you get a decently good card, you have to play that card on 5 if you want to get any of the power off of it. Another card that we gotta talk about every time is Luke Cage because it's negative power, negative cost. The Luke Cage makes so that you don't have to worry about the negative power anymore. Another card that you can look into is Wong. You play down the Wong, you play down the Valentina on top of the Wong, you get 2 cards, you get 2 6 drops. Those 2 6 drops now cost you 4, so that's 4 8. Maybe something with a Sarah, where you basically move them to 3 and you go crazy, or with the Quinjet, so you can play 2 on 3. But that's a very hard thing to pull off on 4, and then 5, and then 6 for the 2 6 drops. And you have to have the Quinjet or you have to have a Sarah. Another thing that you can look into is with the Shadow King. The Shadow King will make your things higher, will make your opponent's things lower, kind of a secret little intern where you can flip-flop the board. But the problem with a lot of the 6 drops is when I was going through a lot of the 6 drops, so many of the 6 drops aren't good. About 40% of the 6 drops are actually good for you to get. And the other 60% are bad, or mid at the most part. And if you're just looking to play it into a Loki deck where everybody's saying, oh, I'll just play it in Loki, that way I get a bad card and I can just flip it with Loki. If that's what you're looking for, just go get Snowguard. Snowguard will put 2 cards in your hand. Or go play Nick Fury, which will put 2 cards in your hand. A lot of times it's hard to get a card above a 4/5, which is basically Captain Marvel stats. A 4/5, when you push it up, becomes a 6/8. And there's a lot of cards that fall down to being like a 6/8. And for 4 drops, you have cards that are now 4/10s. And you can get some bad drops on this. Like, if you get Nolan would normally be considered a decently good card. But unless you're playing Destroy, or unless your opponent's playing Destroy, and the Null does you no good, it's a faded card, it's a worthless card, it's as well as picking up nothing. You can also get really bad drops like Apocalypse. The odds that you're playing this card and have a way of discarding Apocalypse at all, or want to waste turns discarding Apocalypse at all, is slim to none. And even if you play the Luke Cage, you're getting a 6/6 off of this. And for all the people who are saying stuff like, oh, I'll get a Red Hulk, yeah, that is rare. Now, every single time you play your opponent and they play this card, they'll get a Red Hulk. But every time you play it, you're going to get an Apocalypse. You're going to get a Galactus. You're going to get a Helicarrier. And even Helicarrier, when you take and you look at Helicarrier, Helicarrier, when it's brought down because it loses 3 power, becomes a 6-7. A 4-7. And if you look at 4-7s, you're basically looking at the same power range as playing Hercules. Do you want to play a Hercules even on 4? Even with having Hercules' power, you don't want to play a Hercules on 4 sometimes. Now, there are some big hits. Getting something like Agatha is a pretty good card. That's still a 6-11. Look at some of the 6s. There are big hitters in there. But you can play one game, get a Agatha, and then the next game you can get an Apocalypse, and then the next game after that you can get an Apocalypse, and then the next game after that you can get a Helicarrier. Just because you got the card before doesn't mean you can't get the card again. And when you look at stuff like Devil Dinosaur, this is what makes the card so weird, so strange. Because this card has such a flexibility on it where it can become better or worse in the future. Like, let's just say for some reason they change Devil Dinosaur in the future, instead of being a 5-drop to being a 6-drop, and they move it up to a 6-5 to start out with. That could make that could make the whole thing of Valentina become better, because then you got a really good card with this effect. But if you're just playing for Devil Dinosaur on its own, I'm not sure this is the card that you want to have in Devil Dinosaur on its own. On the other hand, if a bad card moves up because they decide that they want to nerf something, and they put, say, for example, Lady Deathstrike up to 6, and they make her so that she destroys 5 or less, that's not that great of a card. So it's one of these weird situations where every single 6-drop that comes out makes her theoretically better or theoretically worse. And right now it's about a 60-40 split from what I've looked at. And to know what kind of a 60-40 split looks like, if you take a regular dice and you roll it, if you didn't get a 5 or a 6, you got a bad card. So, if you want to see how lucky you are as a person, take out a regular die, roll it, and see if you get a 5 or 6, and then roll it again and see how it feels. A lot of people gave this card a big bonus on this. I just don't see where it's at. And I hope I'm wrong. Other than Valentina, the other cards that are in here this week are Blob. Blob has taken quite a hit ever since Red Hulk has come out. He has been just chopped off that big boy pedestal. He is a hard card to play, and if you get Blob, you basically have to build a deck around Blob. And when somebody sees a Blob deck, they know what's coming. And with how Clog is running right now, it might be hard to find a spot for Blob. Other than that, we have Null. Now, there's absolutely positively nothing wrong with Null. If you're playing a Destroy deck, he works for a Destroy deck. My issue with Null is I hate that he's still in here. He was one of the first Spotlight Cache variants that you could have. I think he's been sitting in Spotlight variants for way too long. He is pretty much the reason why I always get mad that stuff doesn't get shifted down into Series 3 drops. This card should be a Series 3. There's absolutely no reason this card shouldn't be a Series 3. That being said, it's not a bad card to get. I actually have to see, hang on for 1 second. K-N-U-L-L. No, I don't have a variant. I just own the base. Okay. I thought I might have already even owned the variant for that. I will still take a spin because that is what I do for content. So let's find out what's in the box. What's in the box? Let's all find what's in the box. Box says Valentina. Nice. Alright. So I will be playing that on this Friday, so if you want to see me come and do this Friday, come and join me. Anyways, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, remember, play for fun.